You're listening to a podcast from the BBC World Service. This is HARDtalk with me, Stephen Sacker. Thanks for downloading this edition of the programme. I do hope you enjoy it. Welcome to HARDtalk on the BBC World Service with me, Stephen Sacker. Today I'm in the presidential palace in Tunis. For so many years, the nerve centre of the authoritarian Ben Ali regime. Now it's the home of my guest today, the current president of Tunisia, former human rights campaigner Moncef Marzouki. He was selected for the post by Tunisia's first genuinely democratically elected assembly. He was seen as a symbol of Tunisia's new politics and a bridge builder between the country's secular and Islamist political forces. But now Tunisia's status as the success story of the Arab uprising is threatened by growing internal tension. So just what has happened to the Jasmine Revolution? President Moncef Marzouki, welcome to HARDtalk.
Many Tunisians seem to be losing faith in their revolution. Are you?
Oh no, not at all. But I can confess that I didn't expect the transition to be so complex and so difficult, you know. I'm discovering day after day that revolution is an easy moment, but the aftermath is much more complex and much more difficult. And I hope that I'm quite sure that we're doing quite well when you compare to other countries, and that Tunisians have to be a little bit more patient, and then we see the difference.
But would you accept, and I say this based on evidence from travelling up and down the country, would you accept that there is a lot of evidence of increasing polarisation, deep polarisation within Tunisian society?
Yes, and this is what we are trying to prevent, because when we see what's happening in Egypt, you know, we see that we're going also to be like Egyptian. And in fact, I hope that our brother in Egypt would resolve the problem. And, you know, they looked at the Tunisian model as the real one, the most appropriate model to conduct this difficult transition. And I'm afraid that we are doing just like Egyptian, you know. We have this bipolarization you're talking about. And really I'm afraid of what we are trying now, what's trying hard to do is to prevent this bipolarization. And I hope that because we have, you know, mature and responsible political parties, that we can avoid this confrontation, because it could lead to a civil war, and this would be horrible for Tunisia. Could lead to a civil war? Let's say that it could lead to troubles. Not exactly to civil war, because we don't have, you know, the minority you have in Syria or in Egypt. But I can say that we can have a lot of troubles.
A lot of troubles, and I guess you base that to a certain extent on the shocking assassination of Shukri Belaid.
Yes.
What was your reaction when you heard that this man, who was a human rights campaigner and a political activist, had been gunned down outside his own home?
I knew him very well, you know. I received him many times here in this palace, and he was a kind of friend of mine. So I was extremely shocked, and I was shocked because I knew him, because he was a human being for me and a good friend. But I was shocked and afraid also for what
it might produce.
Yes, might produce, and I really was afraid of having riots and more deaths and so forth.
If I may, let me ask you very bluntly. Shukri Belaid, in a sense, predicted his own demise. He certainly said that he had faced violent threats. He even said it the day before he died. Yeah. And he was quite clear. He believed many of the threats came from groups that were linked to the dominant ruling party in this country today, that is the Islamist party Ennahda. Do you believe he was right?
No, I don't think so, because first of all, you must remember what I told many times, that the spectrum, the Islamic spectrum, is very, very wide, and that Ennahda, the central part of the spectrum, Ennahda is committed to human rights, to democracy. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this, you know, the government with Ennahda. And even the Salafist...
But with respect, you say that with some assurance, but how can you be so sure? We have seen many incidents in this country over the last several months in which violence has come from small groups of Islamists. Now the question is who they are affiliated to. Yeah, Shukri Belaid was quite sure that some of them at least are affiliated to Ennahda.
No, as I told you, Ennahda is a wide spectrum, and I can imagine that Ennahda has people link it probably to the Salafist group. I can imagine this. But even the Salafist group is also a wide spectrum, and the most important part of the spectrum, of the Salafist spectrum itself, is committed to non-violence. So we have a tiny minority within a tiny minority, with the Salafist group itself. I can imagine that those people could be responsible for the murder. We must wait because we don't have any proof. But we must wait. But I can imagine at all that the Ennahda, which is a responsible political party, a moderate political party, could be linked to the murder.
In essence, what you're saying is that you trust the leadership of Ennahda.
Yeah.
Do you trust Tunisia's new Prime Minister, Ali Laqayed?
Yes, of course. This is why I chose him, because I have my say about who should be the Prime Minister. And I know this man for a long time, and I believe that he's also a moderate Islamist and that he could tackle the social and economic problem we are facing now.
But you know that thousands of people have been on the streets of this city, Tunis, protesting about his appointment, saying that he is a hardliner who actually has done little to suppress the violent elements within particularly the Salafist movement.
I don't believe that. Don't forget that we are a democratic state, democratic society, and then we have harsh opposition, and this is what the opposition is saying. But I'm quite sure that, as I told you, Ms. Ali Ariyat would be the man for the situation.
Well, he was Interior Minister, of course, during difficult times when hundreds of people rioted outside the US Embassy and actually ransacked the diplomatic mission itself. He was also the Interior Minister during other attacks by Salafi groups. And he doesn't appear, frankly, to have done much to control the situation.
Yes, you said it doesn't appear, but the reality is quite different. I know a lot about this reality. I can assure you that a lot has been done. Once again, you have to compare Tunisia with other Arab countries. When you compare Tunisia to what's going on in other Arab countries, you will see that the level of violence is extremely low, and that we have done a lot of things avoiding this political violence. Of course, we cannot avoid all the political violence because we are in transition. This country is new to democracy, and we have also harsh opposition. Don't forget that we have this counter-revolution ongoing. And so the situation is quite difficult. But once again, you have to compare between our situation and other situation, and then you have to compare between now and before the revolution. The society was also a very violent society before the revolution, and we have had political murders, we have had riots, and we have had all this.
I understand that, and nobody would suggest that this region doesn't have many problems, and Tunisia has always been seen as a haven of, frankly, of stability in the region. But let me just tell you what I found in Sidi Bouzid just the other day, which surprised me. I found young men, some of them wearing sort of military-style fatigues, bearded young men, clearly hardline Islamists, I would guess they were Salafists, who said to me, we are against democracy, we believe in jihad, we are not interested in talking to you, a Westerner, we'd have nothing to do with you, we want no contact with you. And they gave me the impression of a group within this society who are determined to do whatever it takes to impose their will. What should be done with them?
I discovered myself that this phenomenon is much more complex and was more dangerous than I thought before. And
you think they've been underestimated?
Yes, of course. We surely did. And now we are discovering that it's a problem, but once again, it's not that dangerous because you should also talk to the...
Well, if you believe they killed Shukri Belaid, it's pretty dangerous.
Yes, of course. But once again, I still believe that we have, in this country, it's a tiny minority. Within a tiny minority, once again, in this country we have strong civil society. In this country we have a huge consensus about democracy.
So how many of them do you believe there are of this really strong Salafi persuasion?
Some 200 or 300.
200 or 300?
200 or 300 people decided, to kill, who could kill and who could, promote violence. We are afraid that some of them are now, in Syria. Some of them are in Mali. We are expecting them to come back to Tunisia, and that they can be very dangerous. Very few groups could be extremely dangerous because they imagine that they would kill somebody else or tourists. This would be a catastrophe for Tunisia. While it doesn't put Tunisia itself in danger, but the image of Tunisia and the image outside of. So we have to deal with this problem. Surely we have to deal with it. But I do believe that...
Forgive me for interrupting,
yes.
But how do you believe the problem, as you put it, should be dealt with?
Surely not the way that Ben Ali dealt with the problem of Islamists, only by repression, only by police and so forth. We have to tackle the problems from all the many sides, because it's a lack of education, it's a poverty, it's being despised and forgotten from the state and so forth. So we have to tackle the problems socially, economically, politically. Also, we have to ask, the religious leaders also to talk to this young man, to tell them that's probably they're on the wrong path.
Well, let me ask you then what you felt when last year we saw in the Tunisian media a leaked video which showed the leader of the Ennahda party, Rashid Ghannouchi, talking to a group of young Salafis and telling them that Tunisia is now ours and that Islamism is now in control of Tunisia, and advising them that they should be patient and that over time they should move into the universities, that Islamic teaching would eventually persuade all Tunisians to go down the right path. When you saw that, what did you think?
I talked to Rashid Ghannouchi about this video, and I asked him what his objective, and he told me that we have to talk with the Salafis because the red line is violence. So if we can convince them that if they can convince the population of their views, why not? But we have to prevent violence. This is why he thought that he has to discuss with them. And myself, I received here many times some of their leaders telling them that, look, you are Tunisian like all the other Tunisians, but please don't cross the line, don't cross the red line. We have to talk with these people, because they are part of the society. We cannot just say, hi, they are all terrorists. We have to divide them. We have to make sure that the most important part of this spectrum sticks with democracy, and then we can fight against the others.
What's at stake right now is very much the future identity of Tunisia. Yes. And in essence, the argument over the constitution is really about that, about what kind of Tunisia you want to see. Why, if you are of one mind with Ghannouchi and Ennahda over the future identity of Tunisia, why is it proving to be so difficult to agree on a constitution?
No, the discussion about constitution are not about the identity. Everybody here agrees that Tunisia is an Arab Muslim country, and the Islamists, when they come to government, they agreed also that we have to deal with social economic problems, that we cannot be a threat to human rights and especially to women's rights. So,
and you think that's all agreed?
Yes, yes.
Well, there are many people in this country who don't think it's agreed, who still worry that the ruling party's commitment to women's rights, to gender equality, is not going to be firmly enough enshrined in the constitution.
It will be. It will be. I can assure that it will be. But the main problems about constitution now would be a presidential system or parliamentary system. And another wants a parliamentary system, while we and the many other political parties we stick to the presidential or quasi-presidential system. So once again, I can't imagine, I can't accept that people say that Ennahda is threatening now human rights values or human rights liberties. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I can assure that I would never accept that human rights, women's rights, would be threatened in this country while I'm here in this palace.
Can you tell me whether you are going to win the fight to have a semi-presidential system where the president has significant powers which are separate from the powers of the elected legislature?
Last month I received here the president of Portugal, the former president of Portugal, and he told me that transition in Portugal after the revolution lasts more than 8 years. So we here in Tunisia, we can afford 2 years time, for this transition.
The problem is you told the people it would only take 1 year.
Yes, but I think even 2 years, that's not too long if we want to have, to reach a consensus about the constitution takes time. And the first time I said, Look, 1 year will be enough. We need something like 3 years. This is what I said before being elected, and it proved that I was right. We need time, If you want a consensus-based constitution, you need time, and I think the delay is not that important because we are going probably to have elections to have this constitution finished in April. This is what I was said by the president of the Constitution Assembly, and that we are going probably to have the next election in October, November.
The fact that now there aren't going to be elections till, you say, October, November means more uncertainty over the next few months. Uncertainty is something which investors don't like, the international economic community doesn't like, and it just seems to me, again, it is going to deepen the economic crisis which your country is already in.
No, I think if we can give a date and stick to it, I think people would be patient, and wait for these elections, and then we are going to have a stable state. But once again, when you deal with the political transition as so difficult and so complex, the whole area where you have, the situation in Libya, in Egypt, and so forth, you cannot expect us to finish everything in 1 year or 2 years and to tackle all the problems in that short time. I think Tunisia, once again, when you compare it, is doing quite well, and I'm quite
But
sure.
Are you aware how impatient people are? Again, from Sidi Bouzid, in the very place where the revolution began, I spoke to shopkeepers and stallholders, not unlike Mohamed Bouazizi, the man who burned himself alive and kicked off this revolution in a sense. I spoke to them and they said, in the last 2 years, our lives haven't improved. If anything, they have got worse. If this is the revolution, then we don't see what it has delivered for us. Do you understand them?
Yes, of course, and my answer is always the same. I say, look, before the revolution, you are not citizens. Now we are citizens. Now we are free. Now we have all the political freedom that.
But you can't be truly free if you don't have a job.
Yes,
and
yes,
40% of young Tunisians do not have a job.
Yes. First of all, we have also to build the political system because this country, was destroyed by corruption. And corruption was also linked to the political system. So first of all, we have to set up the political system, the democratic system. That takes time, and we cannot avoid it. And then, what I'm saying always to the people of Sidi Bouzid, that even after the elections, we are not going to change your life from one day to another because it takes time. If we begin the new deal, if I might say, it will take time. It will take years and years. And look, even in
you're going to have a lost generation, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. But we don't have the solution. Look, in France or in Spain or many other countries, they are much richer and they have democracy, all the democracy than ours. And look, they are also suffering from unemployment. So you cannot expect Tunisia, who is just getting from hard dictatorship, 50 years of corruption, of destroying the society and the state, to resolve the whole problem in 2 years.
The World Bank recent report says unless Tunisia delivers major structural reform and creates a dynamic private sector, then the conditions that fueled the revolution could once again threaten social stability. The international community is deeply worried.
The international community also is deeply interested in promoting Tunisia because they do know that Tunisia is a good lab. They bet on Tunisia, and we have
a good
full
lab
support.
Can turn into a bad lab.
I hope that we are not going to turn to bad lab. But now we have full support from Europe. We have support from many Arab countries, the Gulf countries.
Well, you haven't got the IMF loan yet that you wanted.
Yes.
$1.7 billion, which you need, which is still under negotiation.
Yes.
And I get the sense that people in Washington are getting worried.
Maybe, but once again, we have to build our political system. We need some few months after that, after the election, we would have this stable political system, and then we would be able to tackle all those social and political problems and economic problems. We need some few months. People have to be patient, not only Tunisian, but also the international community.
But this raises the question of credibility of politicians, and again, I'm going to be blunt about it. We met each other a little over a year ago, and I reminded you then that you had said if you could not improve or if you didn't see the situation improve in this country within 6 months, you would consider your position.
Yeah.
Well, here we are, a year later. Unemployment is, 18, 19%. 40% of young people don't have jobs. Many people in this country see the situation, partly because of the tourism factor and the sinking of that industry, getting worse. Are you considering your position?
No, I'm not considering my position because I have another lecture of the situation. In 2011, we can say that we didn't have a state, the country was not ruled by real estate, and the level of violence at that time was extremely high. The level of unemployment also was higher than now. Then we are now, step by step, building up this new government, a new state, writing down a constitution. We are moving forward, and this is why I'm very optimistic about our future. And I can say that Tunisia would be a good lab for the democratic transition, which is in all Arab countries. Don't forget that.
It's one quick point on the powerful message you delivered to me about corruption and the need to get away from the Ben Ali era when corruption was rife within the system. Do you think you've made real progress on that?
No, not at all. Because once again, we are dealing with so many problems. I think that we cannot really deal with this problem before having this stable state, before having an independent judiciary, and all those means we are now trying to set them up.
You've been very frank about the difficulties that still face Tunisia, and you've suggested perhaps people underestimated just how grave the difficulties were going to be 2 years ago when the revolution came. You've also said that Tunisia can be a model of a peaceful people's revolution, a model also of a successful Arab democratic state. It's harder to believe in that now than it was perhaps 2 years ago. Would you agree?
Yes, but why not? Why not? We didn't have. Of course, we have this assassination, this terrible assassination, but the only one. We have rights. We have demonstration, but we don't have rights. The level of violence is still, when you compare it once again to other countries, is still acceptable. Discussion is going on. We are writing this constitution. We have all. We talk to all the political parties. All political parties talk to each other. I think that we have this this government between secularists and Islamists, moderate secularists and moderate Islamists, which is uncommon, unknown before in Arab countries, and. We have also to see that this part of the cup is not only half empty, it's also half full.
An inveterate optimist, Mr. President.
I am an optimist. I have to be optimist because if you are not optimistic, that's you can give away and they say none of my business. But I faced the problems under dictatorship, and now I am discovering that the problems under democracies sometimes are much more complex and more dangerous, but it's more exciting also.
Mr. President, we have to end there, but thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
That was an edition of Hard Talk presented by me, Stephen Sacker. For details of our complete range of podcasts and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.